Good evening, everybody. John Miller here, Hawkeye Podcast. Please don't mind, for those of you watching this video, that I'm just leaning back and I'm chilling. I recognize that this isn't the perfect rule of thirds type of setup. Let me just roll that down a little bit so my eyes are more on the upper third, which is what I was taught back in the radio and television days. And you know what? What's the occasion for this podcast? Let me tell you two things. One, I just feel like talking. Two, wife and I were supposed to watch another episode of Ted Lasso. I just got home from the movie theater with my daughter watching the latest Marvel movie, whose title I can't pronounce, but phenomenal movie. And get home, wife's kind of tired, sleepy. I'm going to watch the first episode of Foundation on Apple TV here after I do this. But I'm like, you know what? Football's tomorrow. People are going to be driving to the game tomorrow. And let's talk. It's fun. Iowa's won 3 in a row. They're on a 9-game winning streak dating back to last season. The game against Colorado State tomorrow, as I record this, Saturday, if I'm just trying to play it straight, the game against Colorado State on Saturday is so important for this football team. So important for this football team relative to their development, because this is it. This is your last tune-up opportunity. Again, we've talked about this in previous episodes of this podcast over the last 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, or really 1 week, that Iowa was very fortunate in that they started the season 2-0. I didn't expect that. And when I say fortunate, they didn't get lucky. They went out and they won both of those games. They executed. They did the job that they needed to do to win. So when I say fortunate, please don't get it mistaken. I'm not saying lucky, but they put themselves in a very fortunate position. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. They put themselves in a very fortunate, opportunistic position to then have the Kent State and Colorado State games be the idyllic tune-up opportunities to go into the real meat of the Big Ten schedule. Yes, they're 1-0 in Big Ten play, but after this week, it's 7 straight Big Ten. Is it 8 straight? 8 straight Big Ten opponents to end the season. And, maybe it'll turn out that there was a breather or two along the way, but I don't think it will turn out. This is the last opportunity going into it, even though none of the coaches would say this publicly. Going into it that you probably win this game playing C-level football, playing 75% of your best. You're going to probably win this game by double digits. This is the perfect tune-up opportunity for this year's Iowa team based on what this year's Iowa team did in week 1 and in week 2. They've put themselves in a great situation. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for the offensive line to continue to gel. We saw some of that last week. Iowa gets Shooter back, and that is such a big boost for them. Kyler Schott. Now, he was probably playing at sea level last week, did some good things, looked rusty. His stamina, his cardio is just not going to be there. Probably would expect him to play 30, 35 snaps in this game maximum as he continues to come back. But this offensive line is better when he's starting on it. I don't know that he's going to be a starter against Colorado State. I doubt it. But they're better with him. He's one of their best 5 when he's healthy. I think that's clear. Opportunity again for Mason Richmond at left tackle. Cody Ince at left guard. Right tackle, Nick DeJong has looked better than anybody else there. Right guard, Justin Britt, likely going to get the start. He's starting on the 2-deep roster. He's listed on the 1 line on the 2-deep roster. But I'm telling you, and this is not a slight against Britt. Connor Colby, the freshman. Where's he from? Cedar Rapids, Kennedy. Knew it was Eastern Iowa. Just wanted to be sure. Shout out to the Kennedy folk. He is kicking butt and taking names at a very young, ripe age. He is he'll probably be, I would guess he's a right tackle next year. We'll see. Sorry. Needed to take a drink of water there. So going to see, 7, 8 maybe 9 guys play, get some snaps along the offensive line. Jack Plum will also get some snaps at tackle. We know that Colby will at right tackle. Interesting this week in that Britt is on the 1 line at right guard and Schatz on the 2 line at right guard. Colby is on the 2 line at right tackle. Wouldn't it be something if Colby played his way to the number 1 line and right tackle this year? Wouldn't rule it out. When he's in, the right side of the line has been better at run blocking. It's not all the way there, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think that this game for the offensive line probably quasi-cements things the rest of the way. When Shooter is back to a full cardio health, he's starting. My guess is that Britt goes back to the 2 line, still gets some time, but he's no longer a starter. That's just my guess. We'll see what happens. But a huge opportunity for this offensive line to gel, to take steps forward. And if they take steps forward, that means Tyler Goodson is going to take steps forward. It means that Spencer Petrus has the opportunity to take steps forward. One of the most important games for Spencer Petrus in his entire college career. Well, wait a second, John. It's Colorado State. And there were bigger games this year, earlier in the year, and there were bigger games last year. They were all Big Ten games last year. How can you make such a statement? I'm telling you, it's the end of the dress rehearsals for him too. He has got to make some comfortable strides in this game. And that doesn't mean that if he does, that he is free and in the clear relative to the rest of the season as far as some of the things that he needs to work on. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying this is the last dress rehearsal. This is truly, in my opinion, none of the players are going to hear this, and even if they did, I don't care. In my opinion, this is a glorified scrimmage against Colorado State. Man, and if they lost this game, I'm going to have to delete this podcast and this video because I don't want that coming back. I might just have to retire again. But they're not going to. This is it. This is the chance for all these guys to make steps. And how exciting is that? I mean, maybe some people, some fans might look at this game in the schedule. Yeah, it's a rake your lawn Saturday. It's go out and do something else. I'll watch the game later. They should win. I don't want to go because I don't want to pay money to see a game, a blowout against Colorado State. I'm telling you, these guys on offense, every last one of these players on offense for sure is coming into this one locked in. Because they have an opportunity almost all the way up and down the line. Everybody but, say, Tyler Linderbaum. Tyler Goodson's firmly entrenched on the 1 line. Probably a couple of other players, but not many more. Laporta's on the 1 line. But there's movement opportunities. There's playing time opportunities at nearly every single offensive position. The majority of them, let's just say. The majority of the offensive positions, playing time the rest of the season is still up for grabs. They're locked in. I mean, you can say, well, John, Tyrone Tracy, he's probably going to be out. He'll probably be in the mix, but he wants to be not just a guy, but he wants to be a dude. Opportunity is there. He had multiple targets last week. I'm going to pull up the target list from Pro Football Focus. On the season thus far, 2021, going into the last game, Tracy only had 5 targets. Now, Tracy has 12 targets. He was targeted 7 times last week. He's got 8 catches, 12 targets. Sam Laporta leads all Hawkeyes with 21 targets. Would love to see Petrus not just fall back on his safety net all the time in a glorified scrimmage, even though once we get against tougher teams, that's probably going to be the case. But you saw Arlen Bruce playing very early last week against Kent State. Keegan Johnson and Bruce fighting for some playing time. So these guys are going to be locked in. So I think the players are probably taking this far, 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 far more seriously than the fans. Probably the case more often than not because they're the ones in harm's way each and every week. But I think legit, I'm not trying to pee on you and tell you it's raining. I think legitimately these offensive guys are going to be locked in. Now, on the defensive side, the defensive line, I could say the same thing about the defensive line than I said about the offensive line, the majority of the offensive positions. There's playing time up for grabs the rest of the year. There absolutely is. I mean, right now to me, Zach Van Valkenburg might be the only made man on the line. John Wagner is playing himself into that, frankly. Noah Shannon's taking steps. Logan Lee's taking steps, but you got Y.A. Black on the 2 line, Luke Van Ness on the 2 line. Joe Evans is continued to get better and better as the pass rusher extraordinaire. So you've got guys out there looking for PT, but I think this is a defensive line that's going to play 7, 8, maybe 9 guys, likely 7 or 8, the rest of the season. And Van Valkenburg and Wagner, I think, have been performing at a level that they're going to probably be in on 3/4 of the snaps. But there's so much playing time opportunity there. Now, Dane Belton, made man. Jack Campbell, Seth Benson, same thing. Justin Jacobs this week, big opportunity for him to move the needle, push the ball farther down the field, figuratively, unless he gets a pick six. Because Iowa's likely going to be playing 4-3, the 4-3 defensive alignment a lot in this game because of the looks that the Colorado State offense is going to give them, more power looks. So Iowa's going to, I mean, I wouldn't say predict that they'll exclusively be in 4-3 in this game, but I think for the vast majority of the time, they will be in 4-3 in this game. And if they're in 4-3, I think you're going to see a healthy dose of Jacobs. And I think that you'll see Dane Belton move back to safety, Merriweather go to the bench. And, I mean, again, opportunities. Now, it's another opportunity to see Torrey Taylor punt. Hopefully we don't have to see him too much because Iowa's offense is clicking and they're getting it done. I did want to pull something up because, there were some people after the game last week that sent me notes and such, and then that's fine. I'm always here to read them. But I want to go down the Kent State drives real quick because some folks were saying, John, 30 points isn't enough. 30 points against Kent State isn't enough. Well, let's talk about the drives if we can for a second. If I can find the drives broken out in the Iowa stat sheet, these NCAA stats that Iowa now sends out, I don't like them as much as the old. Okay, here we go. So Iowa's drives, received, kickoff, got to the 42 and punted. That was a drive where Tyrone Tracy slipped and fell on a wide receiver. Wasn't a jailbreak screen, but he slipped and fell. That would have been a first down. You had another drive that ended in a fumble, and you had another drive that ended with a Sam Laporta drop. That would have been a first down. The fumble came at the Kent State 42. The Tyrone Tracy drop or slip came across the field in Kent State territory. The drop pass was also in Kent State territory. That's 3 possessions where Iowa would have had first downs in Kent State territory had the bad plays or lack of execution not happened. How many more points is that possibly? 6, 9, 21, maybe. So, and those weren't situations where Spencer Petrus was the one puking on that one. He didn't have a crisp game. But at any rate, that's just how things add up. That's how things add up. So a few other notes. Interesting preparation for Iowa's defense this week as well. Your first 3 opponents, more heavy shotgun team, not as wide open as Kent's. Colorado State's not going to be wide open at all. It's going to be more power. First 3 opponents, more wide open. Kent State and Indiana, very wide open. Iowa State, they could go power. They could line it up with tight ends, but even probably not as many power looks as you're going to see attempted from Colorado State. The way that you're going to see when you play against Wisconsin, the way that you're going to see when you play against Illinois, quasi against Northwestern. So this is good preparation for the defense. Although, the defense obviously gets to go up against more power looks all during camp when they're playing against the Iowa offense. But anyway, good preparation opportunities. A couple of things here. And if y'all that are watching this in the YouTube chat, normally I don't do this. Normally I have you submit questions. I asked for folks to submit questions or comments in the text line. But you can go ahead and submit them over in the YouTube chat if you're interested. If not, I'll keep yapping here for probably at least another 15 minutes before I go flip on the Apple TV. The rankings, I'm going to share the screen here so those of you that are watching this can actually see what I am looking at. Window right there. And those of you just listening to this in podcast form, don't worry, I'll talk about these things. So the ESPN has an S&P Plus ranking. Here's what they say, what the S&P is. What is S&P Plus? In a single sentence, it's a tempo and opponent adjusted measure of college football efficiency. Bill Connolly is the author. He's the guy that created this. Says he created the system in 2008. As its experience with both college football and its stats have grown, made a few tweaks to the system. It is, as always, important to note that SP Plus is intended to be predictive and forward-facing. It is not a resume ranking that gives credit for big wins or particularly brave scheduling. It's simply a measure of the most sustainable and predictable aspects of football. Okay? So he says it's forward-thinking, basing on what he thinks a team's going to look like, which is why I really have a head scratcher where they have Iowa at 16. Now, listen, I'm just looking for something to bitch about, right? If I'm complaining about something as meaningless as this, meaningless in the grand scheme of things, then I'm just looking for something to complain about. And maybe I am. But he's got Iowa 16th in this. He's got Iowa State 14th. That's a little bit of a reach. So he ranks Iowa's defense forward thinking now. What he thinks is good, what the system thinks is going to happen the rest of the season. Iowa is the number 2 defense in the nation behind Georgia's number 1. And I think Georgia's defense absolutely is number 1. Has Iowa's special teams 9th in the nation. 9th. By the way, he has his model rather has Michigan's 2nd, Ohio State's 4th in the nation on special teams. It also has Ohio State's defense going forward 37th, Michigan 8, Penn State 6, Wisconsin 3. So the old Big Ten defense again. But it has this is the one that I have the biggest issue with, and I'll tell you in a second. Forward thinking. Remember what I want to read those words again. S&P is intended to be predictive and forward facing, as in what it thinks is going to play out the rest of the year. How in the world is Iowa just 16 when it has Iowa's offense ranked as 70th? Because right about now, to 70th is getting close to that magical average word that I've talked about. How I said Iowa's offense just needs to get to be average this season. And if they can get to be average, then I think they can win the Big Ten. Certainly that would put them better than 16th in the country. If Iowa's offense, folks, finishes ranked 70th in the country, they might not lose a game based upon what I think this defense and special teams will be. But anyway, Adam J in the chat said Iowa is 16 because they average 3 yards pass attempt. Again, 70th would be a blessing right now. Iowa's probably, let's just look it up. CFB stats. Those of you that are here, you see how we're making the sausage. National stats, total offense, Iowa. I'm just going to scroll to the bottom. Iowa's ranked 119th out of 130. So 130 means 65 would be the midpoint, would be average. 70th, nearly average. Iowa's 119th. If they get to 70th, folks, look out. And I've been saying that. If they can just get to be average, then they're going to be something. I also made the mistake of looking at ESPN's College Football Power Index, the FPI. Said I wasn't going to do that again, but I'm sorry. They have Iowa 15th. Listen, before the season ends, Iowa very well could finish around 15th or 20th. I don't know. But they have Iowa 15th. So, okay, whatever. They have Michigan 3rd. And I don't see that. I don't see that. Let's go over here to our friend Jeff Sagarin. And again, maybe I'm just looking for something to bitch about. Sagarin ratings, college football page, scroll down. So he has Iowa 7th, and he has Iowa's schedule ranked as 20th. Now he's got Michigan's schedule as 23rd. Okay, so I'm guessing I'm going to have to back off a little bit. He's got Ohio State schedule 11th. That seems a little bit high. Penn State schedule 13th. Okay. Well, yeah, I love Sagarin, so I guess I need to back off that a bit. ESPN FPI, Michigan is 6th. Ohio State is 4th. Penn State is 10th. And Iowa is 15th. And the old Michigan State Spartans, 17th. Wisconsin, 19th. So the Big Ten is represented well. Okay, I'll stop bitching about that. Quit complaining about that. Yeah, I was reading Ryder Cup stuff as well before jumping on here. So let's just stop the screen sharing. Okay. Again, any questions, fire them away in the chat. If not, I've got a couple more things I want to talk about, and then we'll literally put this one to bed. I guess, in a technical way, we'll put this to bed. And then I'm going to go watch a show. Hats off to Luca Garza. I don't know if there is anything out there official yet as far as the details of his 2-year contract, but his two-way contract is being converted to a 2-year standard NBA 2-year contract. Now, when it says, okay, I've got to unblock the ads here on this so I can see that, which I get and understand and respect. I'll do that. I want to scan this real quick to see if there's any details. The minute I unblock an ad, it's a full page pop up and then another video pop up. See, that's just can't. I've been guilty of that in the past myself. No details. No details necessarily. Maybe somebody has the details. I don't. But congrats to Garza. I will be honest. I thought Luca was going to have the best opportunities in Europe. I did not believe that his game, as we saw it at Iowa, would translate well enough to make it in the NBA. And who knows? Maybe this year or next year, maybe it'll just be 2 years. Who knows? But I didn't expect him to do this. And I'm extremely excited for him because he probably worked harder at his game than any player I've ever been familiar with. Anyone. And you want to see good things happen to good people that work hard. Lucas seems like an unbelievable dude. Worked harder than anybody I've ever seen. Almost maybe at anything, whether it's sports, work, anything. And he gets rewarded for it. Doesn't always happen, but he did. Got to achieve a dream of his and a goal. And let's say he gets up there, gets in the NBA, and his feet, his lateral quickness or lack thereof gets exposed. He's too much of a liability on defense to offset the efficient way he puts the ball in the basket on offense. And he doesn't stick. And then he goes to Europe and makes 8 figures worth of money for his career as a European professional basketball player. A, nice fallback. But B, more important than the money. I'm telling you this, it is more important than the money. He had a shot. He got his shot. He is getting his shot in the NBA. So if he gets there and it doesn't work out, he will know that he made it. He gave it his all. It wasn't quite good enough to stick long term with the best of the best in the world. And he can live with that. He can live with that. What's harder to live with is not getting the opportunity when you feel that you deserve it. Or in some instances in life, not even getting the opportunity to get the opportunity. Luca got the opportunity, worked hard, cut weight in the offseason. The Luca that I talked about, not necessarily or being concerned about transitioning or working out in the NBA game, is not the Luca that we saw this summer. Luca lost, what, 30, 40 pounds? Looked fantastic. I mean, many of you, maybe even most of you listening to this, could say that, yeah, I get it, John. Just getting that opportunity to know is all worth all of it. It's worth everything. I mean, from my experience, when I was 13, I told my dad one day I was going to have a national television show and I was going to be the voice of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, I never got to be Gary Dolphin, but in a internet and technological way, I had a pretty big megaphone, if you will, with the websites that I built and the podcasts that I helped create. So yeah, I got to scratch that itch, and I got a chance to audition for, and then land a national television show on the Big Ten Network. It only lasted 5 episodes, but I'm telling you, after the first few days of being replaced on the Big Ten Pulse, first few days I was pretty pissed, embarrassed, just the ego took a hit. But then very soon after that, and certainly now at age 50, because that was like 11 years ago, that I am so grateful for that opportunity. I'm so grateful for those 5 episodes. I'm so grateful to have gotten the chance to go on live in early September of 2010, the night when the Big Ten announced who would be in the leaders and legends divisions, and basically do a 9-minute live segment in front of, more than 1 million people. Jim Delaney came on the next segment after LaCharles Bentley and I did ours. I can't tell you how grateful and that I am and fortunate I feel to have had that shot, because I don't have any I wish I would have about any of that, because I did it. I had a national television show. Not many people can say that, but that's not why it makes me happy. It's not some type of trophy to lord over people. It's that I don't lord it over myself because I wasn't able to attain it. I did it. In my mind, I was good enough. It wasn't good enough to stick. The duo of myself and LaCharles were not good enough to stick, but I was good enough to get it. And I don't have any regrets, and I have zero desire. So if somebody came to me today and said, John, we're going to give you the same national television show opportunity that you had, and we'll guarantee that it'll be on for 3 years, you can make $1,500 an episode, no, I wouldn't do it. I would not do it. I've been there, done that, doing something different now. Same is going to apply for Luca if he doesn't stick. Now, Luca may stick. Who knows? I would love it if Luca could become a 12 to 15-year veteran in the NBA and live happily ever after. That would be fantastic. That's what we're all hoping for. I'm just glad that he got the shot. And I think many of you can relate to that. Iowa announcing this week that going to be starting a women's wrestling program, which is fantastic. I would probably I would attend that just to feel the crowd. I think people will attend that. Might not, go for 15, it might not be an average of 10 to 12,000 people, but I bet that Iowa absolutely will set and hold the records for women's dual meet attendance, probably forever. I bet they can have an event, come pack the arena, the first ever Iowa Hawkeye women's wrestling team dual meet. I mean, is it crazy to think something like that could get sold out? I don't know. Maybe it will. Iowa wrestling fans are crazy in a good way, mostly. So that's fantastic news. And I was just scrolling through the interwebs today, just looking at, mock-ups and designs and renderings of the new Iowa wrestling facility. And I know that's not breaking news, but man, what a great and amazing facility that is going to be. And it's well deserved. This program deserves it. It's kind of sucked with Penn State getting so far ahead of Iowa facilities wise, and then the run that Cale Sanderson has had them on. That's kind of sucked. And the wrestling team is loaded for bear again this year. All right, about 30 minutes in, voice is starting to go, rolling solo here. I really just want to go watch that Isaac Asimov's Foundation series on Apple Plus. Always appreciate you listening to this podcast. Those of you that came in live tonight to watch this, always good to see you as well. Appreciate you doing that. And we will talk with you after the game on Saturday against Colorado State. Until then, take care.